Hey everyone, Andrew Henderson here in my home in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. It's day 7, the final day of our quarantine week. A lot of you have been commenting you'd like to see more of these raw videos. And so if you'd like to see more of these after this week, do leave a comment below. My tea today, we've been trying out different teas from my collection of 21 teas. We stocked up on a bunch of these extra TWG teas before the quarantine came. This is Valentine breakfast tea, really nice black tea, little hints of rose petal and even little pieces of sugar in there. I almost never put sugar in tea. I like to have the pure tea, but there's little balls of sugar, very nice. What's interesting about the mall and the shops and being out is here in Malaysia, they have talked about, cracking down on people in terms of this quarantine, this 14-day quarantine. And some people were saying, oh, this is going to be something where you have martial law in countries all around the world. And so here they shut down a few streets with the police and later with the military because people were just going about their business. However, where I am here in the city, there are really, things are working. You can go and get a Starbucks. You can go to the grocery store. We were stocking up on wine because, you can just go and get everything. And so it's not overwhelmed. I mean, it's nicely spread out. I think here in the city, it's a little bit easier to get around, and there are fewer people because it's more of an office area, which is nice right now. But we've been going out and getting everything that we need. We largely stay inside, and it's been great because we've been getting a lot of stuff done. Again, I've been beefing up language skills. We've been working on new marketing plans, doing a lot of content creation, just absorbing a lot of information about places and countries that I haven't had time to dig into. So that's what we're doing here in Malaysia. But what I want to talk about today is I want to talk about mindset. And that's really what this whole quarantine week has been about, is are you in the right mindset? And I know there's some folks who look at the stuff we talk about, the internationalization. They look at it from a strictly numerical or financial perspective. They just look at the numbers. For me, the mindset is the most important part. Because we've had folks who have come to us who have tens of millions of dollars, and they are stuck in their head about getting some of this stuff done. They'll say, hey, I've been thinking about getting a second passport for 5 years. I keep calling this guy, calling that guy. I never really get where I want to go. Maybe I hired someone, they let me down, whatever. And it's like you sometimes got to nudge them. Now, we don't really nudge people too hard at this point, but if you have tens of millions of dollars and you want to get a second passport, the issue is not that you can't get a second passport. The issue is in your mind. And whether you have tens of millions of dollars or not, you can get this stuff done if you adjust the way that you're thinking. So what I want to talk about is anxiety paralyzing action. There was a great article on TED.com recently talking about this whole coronavirus panic. And they gave a few different suggestions of what it is that you should be doing right now. If you're in business, if you're an investor, really whomever you are, but particularly if you're in business for yourself, focus on what it is that you know, focus on what it is that you can do, and focus on what it is that you can control. I know for a lot of us who are in business, we got into business because we wanted, whether we realized it at first or realized it later or haven't realized it yet, we got into business because we wanted a sense of control. We wanted a sense of control of our lives. I have a friend, he's in the asset protection business. He sets up trusts. And he says, my clients are all control freaks. Right? Now, I've talked before about how I don't think you necessarily want to be a control freak in areas that you don't understand as well. It's nice to seed and succumb to a process and let folks who do know really help in those areas. But a lot of us got into business, got into investing because we wanted to be in control. And that's a good thing in many ways. It's a good thing to want to control your life. Most people, as I often say, they let life wash over them like a tidal wave, right? I remember, hearing people years and years and years ago, hey, I got my girlfriend pregnant. How did that happen? Oh, I don't know, it just happened. Those people are not in control. We're in control. But I think sometimes you've got to focus on what it is that you're able to actually control yourself. You're not going to make the coronavirus go away. You're not going to control the stock market, but you can control what it is that you do. And you can focus on what you know, and you can focus on what your reactions are going to be. Okay. A lot of the anxiety Okay, fear versus anxiety. A lot of the anxiety out there is because nobody knows what's happening next. I saw someone had retweeted something from Laura Ingraham, who's on Fox News in the United States. I don't follow Laura Ingraham. I've met Laura Ingraham, but she said, hey, we need a date certain when this thing is going to be over. And I think she meant, when the shutdowns are going to be over. But there is no date certain. We don't know. And that's what's causing folks anxiety. And if someone said, April 11th, that's when it all goes back to normal, you'd be like, great, I'm going to enjoy being cooped up in the house. I'm just going to get ready. I'm going to, get my customer lists ready, and I'm going to get ready to swing back in action. But we don't know. But focus on what you do know. What we've been talking about all this week is if you are building a business, if you're building something that has intrinsic value, you're going to eventually be okay. And you're probably going to be okay sooner than you think. Okay. Again, I'm not doing the doom and gloom thing. I know there's a few folks out there, they've been waiting for some doom and gloom for many years now, and finally now's their moment. And now they get to talk about how the sky is falling. But right outside my window in Malaysia is an example of how they're not applying martial law the same way that they would in California or in the UK. Their idea of a crackdown is a bit more realistic. And so I do believe this is an opportunity where one of the things that you can control, one of the things that you can know is when this is all over, how are you going to live your life? Are you going to live your life in a country where you fear that they're going to have martial law, where you fear that the medical system isn't as good as it should be, where you know that your taxes are going to be too high for probably what you've been seeing now is not getting enough value for your money? Right? Focus on the things you know and focus on the things that you can do. I mentioned the other day, the internet marketing expert Frank Kern said fewer people are already advertising. He thinks advertising prices are going to go down substantially. You have the power. It is within your control to go out and advertise your business because I promise you, okay, even in depressions, the stock market does not go to zero. Sales don't go to zero. Business does not go to zero. Now, maybe in select functions, in select areas, sales may go to zero. But even here, they said, all the restaurants are shutting down. You can still get takeout. You can still get delivery. I'm seeing Food Panda and Grab Food. They must be doing a tremendous job right now. Okay. Focus on what it is that you can control. And I think that position of empowerment is very important for entrepreneurs because if you feel unempowered, that's when you start to just give up. I have been there. Now, I've talked about how using international strategies in my life and diversifying my money and holding some different currencies and also a lot of US dollars in real estate and having paid for real estate and having cash in the bank and having safe haven assets and having places to go, that has helped me. But when I was just starting out in business, I told you, I started out business right before the recession. And every year through the recession, I made more money than the last. But it was tough. I can visualize one time in probably 2010 when things were still pretty soft. And we were doing direct mail, and we were calling folks, and it was a little tough in some of the markets we were doing business. And I remember at one point I just kind of sat back for a week and just played on the computer for a while. Now, I think what's nice about this opportunity of staying inside is you have more time to do stuff that maybe you've wanted to do for a while. And again, my example was just a month ago, I was telling Mrs. H, one of these days I'd like to have some time to go and watch some documentaries and read some old literature and do that. Well, now I'm inside and I'm not, going out and walking around and going to the gentleman's club and all that. And so now I do have the time to do it. But if you get stuck in this mindset that, it's all over and you just got to ride it out, there are things you can be doing right now. One of the things that I think is really helpful in good times or bad is what I've done is I've gone out and I've stepped up some of my giving. I've seen people who are in need, and whether it's someone that I know and said, hey, do you need some money to pay your rent, or whether it's folks I don't need, some of the charities that I usually deal with. I've looked at charities that, whether it's animals or orphanages, whatever, where they need more resources because times are tough or because not as many people are giving. I think that when you give, that triggers some things inside you to have more of an abundance mindset, to feel like things are going to be okay, and to feel like it's okay to go out and keep going. So that's one thing that I've done. Another thing that I did is I just finished listening to an audiobook on Audible called How to Build Self-Discipline. It's Martin Meadows. It's a pretty short listen. one of the things that he talked about, there's a lot of good, kind of basic advice in there. It's worth the hour and a half, 2 hours just to go through and re-listen to a lot of great advice on self-discipline. One thing he mentioned is you've got to get your network in order. You've got to be surrounded by the right people. If you have people right now who are around you who are panicking and who are not following the formula of what do I know, what can I do, and what's in my control, if you're surrounded by folks who are trying to drag you down, now is the time to decide and make a difference and decide to be different and decide. I had to go through that about a decade ago when I was doing well in business. I had a track record. Things were really starting to pick up. The more I think about it, actually, that time when I was sitting around for a week, that was probably 2009, because things started to pick up end of 2009, started to get some big corporate contracts. So about 10 years ago, I had to decide who's going to stay in my life. And over the last 10 years, from a point of love, I have removed certain people from my life. People who try to take advantage, people who were just negative, people who were worriers, people who were small-minded and didn't want to grow. I've also maintained some friendships for 10 or 15 years with good people who have helped me grow, and hopefully I've helped them grow. But now is a time for you to put that within your control as well. Who's around you, because that is who's influencing you. It's your network is your net worth, but it's not just your money, but it's the things that influence your money, okay? And so those are things that I want you to do, and really understand, what is anxiety, what is fear. Here's the good news, okay? If you do that, you can go out and everything's on sale right now. If you want to get a second passport, there are investments that could be as little as $10,000 or $15,000. You can go and get a residence, work towards a passport. There are investments where the value of assets has declined, and you can invest and you can get a lot more for your money and get a passport sometimes instantly. Okay, whether it's in Turkey, whether it's any number of different residence programs, whether it's there's just so many. There's dozens of programs, and most of them are on sale right now. Most of them are on sale. If you're going to get a citizenship by investment, we may see some of these countries speed up processing times. Okay? There are things that you can be doing without leaving the home. There are strategies you can be taking advantage of. Okay? If you want to go and open a bank account in another country, let's take Singapore, for example. Now, they've got a pretty good currency. It's not like their currency dropped to 30%, but it's a little lower now. Their minimum deposit is going to be denominated in Singapore dollars. And so if you're putting in US dollars, you need fewer US dollars to do that. The euro is down a little against the US dollar. So if you're looking at one of the golden visa programs, if you're looking to buy real estate in Europe, a lot of people are going to be panicking right now. And I would tell them the same thing, by the way. I would say, hey guys, don't freak out. If you have cash to support yourself, don't freak out. Your assets will eventually come back if they have intrinsic value. But not everyone's going to do that. Some people are going to be anxious and they're going to freak out, and they're just going to have all these what ifs in their mind. What if, what if, what if, what if, what if, what if? I had to do this myself. I'm not perfect. A couple of weeks ago, I asked Ivana Bakovic, I said, is this virus affecting us? Because, Februaries are normally a little slower here. And I said, do you think the virus is going to be an issue? And we weren't really sure. And now here we are, 2.5, 3 weeks later, and it, of course, has been on everyone's mind just for these last couple of weeks. Seems like it's been a year. But when we first decided this may have an impact, I had all the what ifs. And then we went on to have a record month in the history of our company. Not even like by a little, but actually by a pretty good margin, a record month. And so what if, what if, what if? You can ask yourself all the what ifs. Or you can find people who want their anxiety assuaged. And they're going to want to sell you their property that maybe helps you get that residence permit, helps you live in Europe, helps you get a second passport. Banks are going to be more accessible. I've been talking about how our research team, more banks are calling us back and more quickly, and they're more eager. And they've lost a little bit of the condescension that some of them have. It seems almost instantly. So they're going to be easier to deal with. I think you'll see more banks, at least. The hardest thing when it comes to banks is getting them to answer the phone sometimes. Getting them to give you any information. Just fly to Andorra and maybe we'll talk, And now we're seeing people be reasonable. And so if nothing else, you're going to have more banks to choose from, more passport programs at a lower price. More things are going to be accessible if only you can contain your own anxiety and trust that if you move $200,000 to Singapore, or trust that if you buy, $200,000 of real estate somewhere, or whatever, okay, that it'll be okay. And what I can tell you from my own experience is the first time you do some of this stuff, there's some fear that comes up. I mean, the first time I bought a property for $22,000 in a new country, it was kind of freaky. Now, people are routinely bringing me deals, hey, want to buy this place for $150. It's like, yeah, well, okay, send the money, right? Because I've done it enough and the fear has gone away from me. You need to do that. And if you can do that right now in this time, you're going to get some incredible deals. And all this stuff is going to be available at a discount. You're going to get these international things that you need set up. You're going to be able to go offshore. And when things come roaring back, you're going to be in a great position. And you'll be ready for the next time there's a panic. So understand fear versus anxiety. Focus on what you can control. Focus on what you know. Most of us don't know that much. We know what the media tells us. And by the way, I see so many different media reports. One thing says one thing says another. One doctor says this, one doctor says another. One country says this, one thing says another. What I know is I feel incredibly safe. Once I went through the what ifs for a day or two, I feel incredibly comfortable in the position that I am, having all the diversification, having my own personal safe havens. And I think now is the best time to push past the anxiety, be aware of it, push past it, go out, get yourself set up. You will be thankful. How can Nomad Capitalist help you? 4 ways. Number 1, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to make sure you get our new video every day. Number 2, get a copy of Nomad Capitalist, the book. You'll learn a lot of my personal experiences over a dozen years of studying this stuff, as well as exactly some of the strategies that you can use to build your Nomad Capitalist plan. Number 3, if you're not sure where to start, but you want to come and learn from my team and I, you want to come and mingle with like-minded people, learn more about our live conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's coming up soon. And number 4, if you want some help right now because you've got a burning issue, you need something solved, you want to lower your taxes, get a second passport, or build the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle of your dreams, go to nomadcapitalist.com and click on Become a Client.